Hello, guys. I'm your host, Lucie, and this is Eventually It All Connects. I'm here with a good friend of mine from church. This is Victoria.
Hello.
Say hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm the good friend from church.
But yeah, so I have a question I normally ask everyone, one of my guests in the beginning of the podcast. And the question is... Okay, the question is there a time in your life where you didn't know it then, but are now realizing that eventually it all connected to today?
All the time. Like eventually my life biography could be called Eventually It All Connects. Like things would happen and I'll be like, hold up. This means, like, I'll remember a past thing and why that happened and this happened. And then I'll be like, wait, this was all leading to this moment right now. So I'm always also looking out for that. I'm also always looking out for things. And it has given me reason. Even when I'm doing something or something happens and I don't really know why it's happening, good or bad. I'm like, this is just going to play in the future. And I'm going to be like, oh, this is why this happened. Yeah, so.
Is there a specific time that you remember?
Well, I have multiple, but I don't know which one I should use. There's a person I met. No, okay, I have a really, really good one. I just remembered. I was working at a place, and another girl joined to work the place. And she didn't stay on for quite long. I had been working there for a few years. She didn't stay on for very long. But she became my friend for the few months that she was there. And later she moved on to another thing in her life. Maybe just a really few months and became friends. After, I used to like to just check on her. Like every few months, I check on her, how are you doing? She was a bit younger than me. So just like, checking on, do you need, like, how is life going for you, right?
A mentor, basically.
Yeah. So both of us at some point left the job where we met. And I continue with, my life. I'm freelancing. And freelancing is great, but it could be hard, especially when you need cha-ching. And, sometimes clients pay, sometimes they don't. So just going through this roller coaster of life. And one day she calls me from the blue. I haven't spoken to her a few months now. And she's like, hi, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm great. And she's like, somebody called me and asked me that they're looking for a project manager / marketing person, and I gave them your name. I'm like, sure, nice. After a few hours, somebody does call me. And they're like, hi, how are you? I got your number from X. I'm looking for a project manager, I had been jobless for 8, 9, 10, 11. For 5 months maybe, or 6. So I was really going through it. So they're like, oh, hi, so-and-so gave me your number. I'm looking for this. Can you come to my office tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah. I go. And he's like, he does an interview, like a 30-minute, 40-minute interview with me. And he's like, oh, you're so great. Can you start the job tomorrow? And I'm like, what is life even, right? Yeah. And so I start the job, and it's almost double what I earned when I was working with her. So I asked her, where is this person? Where did you get this person? She's like, I don't know them. They just checked me on LinkedIn. And I'm like, how random is that?
That's just
random person just DM'd her blah, 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 blah. I'm looking for this. She was like, yeah, I know a person. And now suddenly I have a job. So that's when I'm like, you know what? I know why she came to work where I worked back then for very few months. We got along because she could have worked, and maybe we could have not got along, and then maybe I wouldn't be the priority for the person we got along. And that is why now it's it all connected. Her coming, me working with her a year ago, It's like, oh, because she's the person who's going to give me a job. She's also going to refer me to someone who's going to give me a job. That was one of my it all connects moments.
That is actually crazy. It's moments like that you realize, like, God, now I see you, God. I see what you're doing.
I see. It's very crazy. And you're like, when they say God works in mysterious ways, they're super mysterious.
No, it's actually, sometimes I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's one of those things, I'm like, I even tell people, I'm like, I don't believe in coincidences.
Yes, it's not a coincidence. It's always, like, God will be like, I don't know, just intricately doing things, and then later you're like, I would never have thought. And you're like, oh, I see. You're like, oh, that's why this happened, so this had to happen, so this had to happen.
But that also depends, because it's one of those things like, okay, God is like, I will do this and whatever. It's like, okay, are you willing to obey or to follow through? Because it's also the point of like, okay, he will do stuff, but if you don't follow through or if you're not willing to, and he's like, well, you just missed out.
I think the key thing is surrender. People think surrendering is just when you do it in church when you're praying. Surrendering is saying, literally, I don't know. Yeah, like, just take it all. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, live your life, but live like you're a passenger. Like, God is, live like a Sims. You're just like a little character in a video game. And you know somebody's playing you and they're always going to want the best for you. So that's how you should live. So that when something happens, and even if you have to make a decision, like sometimes you'd be at a crossroads and be like, but what decision should I make, God? Should I go this way or that way? What if I go this way and this is the wrong thing? I always tell people I used to struggle with indecisiveness. I do still struggle a little bit.
So do I.
With indecisiveness, but I came to learn it's not so much what decision should I make. It's more any decision I make, God's got me. Like, even if you're going to make the decision that was going to put you in harm's way, God can be like, it's fine, you made the decision. He will direct you. I'll remove these things and make them so that this thing that was maybe meant for bad is now meant for good.
What's that? There's a song, it's like, what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn it out for my good.
You make a bad decision, and I want to encourage especially people who think their decisions are final. Like, you've made a super decision, you're like, oh, I've messed it up, I shouldn't. It's permanent, you maybe signed a deal, or you got into a situation. I'm even gonna go as far to say that you might have put yourself in a relationship, even a marriage, and you're like, I've ruined it for myself now. You're dealing with a God who can change anything. So
you could literally have messed up so badly and he can still change it and make it.
It doesn't matter how bleak it seems. You're just you're a character. You're in the video game, and God is playing the game. So
that's true.
It's not much you can do. It's not anything you can do. Just leave it to him and be like, you know what? I messed up here. One thing, be honest. Tell God, I messed up here. Okay, now what do we do? So he's like, okay, you messed up. Let me fix this.
Like, I got this. But even with the whole surrendering that you're saying, it's one of those things where you have to, like, you can't be like, oh God, I give it to you, and then kumba in your heart, you actually still keep it. Like, that's you still true. Use your own strength. So it's like when you say that, you have to like truly like release it and say it, even from like literally the heart. That's why you say like God looks at the heart, because it's like you can say stuff, but if you don't truly mean it in the heart.
I would say also when you are praying to God for things like that or surrender, incorporate your stupidity. Like, sometimes you'd be like, oh God, I want to like help me. I want to work in a certain maybe industry or job, or want to have this or that. And sometimes making the decision could be hard. Ask God to. You don't need to ask him, but just know he also incorporates your dumbness in doing things in life. So what I like to do is whenever I have a moment of clarity, mind you, this is not a moment when you're like super emotionally happy or super sad. It's just like a moment when you're like, your brain is at room temperature, your emotions are at room temperature. That's what I call it. I usually like to take these moments and then pray to God about a certain thing, because God does say that do not promise things don't say things, because God is up there and you're down here just to say, oh God, I promise I will give you all of my salary when I get it, because you're like super. Don't promise things you can. So what I like to do whenever I'm at room temperature, what I call it, is when I like to go to God and I'll pray about a specific thing. And I'll be like, God, right now my mind I'm sane. It's not emotions running me. It's not feelings. I'm not sad about anything. I'm not super happy about anything. I'm clear, my mind is clear, please think X, Y, and Z. I'll pray about it and I'll tell God, even if in the future, because of my emotions and my humanity, I change, keep my word of today, not the word I tell you when I'm super mad. Yes, yeah. I'm like, because today I'm at a good state. I'm logical. I'm using logic. I'm using the brain you gave me. Yeah. So I'm like, God, take my word of today. Do not take my word when I'm down and I'm sad and I'm like, what is this? Or when I'm super happy and I'm promising things I can't keep. I always tell God, take my word of today. So every time if something happens in the future and then I mess up, I just tell God, remember the prayer I said on a certain day. Like, that's the one. Today I might be failing. Today my humanity might be, my temptations would have gotten the better of me.
That's true.
But please take what I said the other day.
Yeah. No, that makes all the sense, because like I think I was talking to someone else we were talking about it. I think it was like a picture someone saw. It's like when God like has a plan for you, he accounts your stupidity. It's like he knows.
He does account your stupidity, and sometimes people will be like, oh, because you ask God for something and then you use super of your own strength and you can't. There's very little. So sometimes be like, oh, I messed up, but you know what? I have grace. But don't try to mess up on purpose. Like, try your hardest not to, but if it does happen, or if you don't reach the level you thought you could reach, you can, in your weakness, that's where God's strength shines more, because it's where you can't do things. It's like, you know what, let me show you something, because you've been trying to do this on your own for some time. Let me show you how it's done.
What I can do. But yes, that's the way we took so long on that. So the topic for today is actually happiness, which we've kind of incorporated with what we were talking about before. But yeah, so the first question is happiness a state of mind?
Well, that's quite interesting. Is happiness a state?
I literally looked at it. I'm not going to lie. I searched up these questions. I'm just like, I don't even know how to answer it.
I was looking at it on my way here, and I was like, oh, let me just read again what Joanne sent me. And I was like, what is happiness? So I would say something. I feel like people should... There's two things. There's happiness and there's joy.
Yeah.
So joy is kind of the background state that sometimes you're constantly in. Especially if you're like with the Lord, like things might be happening in your life, but there's certain just general, it's gonna be fine. So you're not depressed, even if you get anxious here and there, but your general state is it's gonna be fine. And then I think happiness is more fleeting. It's not as permanent as joy. Happiness can be made from a friend, food, going somewhere, listening to something. It's like, it can come, it can go, 1 minute it's here, the next minute it's gone. But joy is something more permanent. So I would say happiness is a state. Happiness is a feeling, I would say. But joy is a state of mind.
That's why, like, even in the Bible, you come to realize that they don't even use like happy or happiness. They use joy. Like, it's just the joy of the Lord.
Yes, because happiness is, if you say happiness is very fleeting. Like, you'll be like having a great time and then somebody's gonna text you something and then you're like, oh, my mood has changed. Like, I don't. But then joy is constantly just being like, that's the state of mind now. If your mind is in a state of joy, things come, things go. It doesn't mean you're always laughing, but it's like you're always kind of like above the turmoil of life. Yeah, like you're in a constant state of That makes
sense. Actually, now I think that now makes sense because I'm like, okay, yeah. Now I see the difference, because I think there's a lot of people kind of confuse the difference, because people are like, oh, it's the same thing, like it's the same.
And then the world of today is all about make yourself happy. Your happiness. That's crazy, because it's a very selfish world. If you go into the world just trying to please me, I want to make myself happy. That's a very selfish way to move through life. You're not always going to be happy. The world is not made of pizza. It's real.
Literally. But this is a question that I actually want to have an answer to. Why are little kids some of the happiest people in the world?
I think it's because they don't know anything. Yeah,
That's
with
true.
ignorance comes bliss. Like, you don't have rent, no bills. If you wanna fall, somebody's catching you.
You don't, yeah.
Nothing is going on. You're just like floating through air with somebody, which is crazy because that's how God expects us to feel, like, of His treatment. The same way kids will go about life doing whatever they want because they know their parents are always there. So,
it's
like,
literally what God wants.
So God wants you to kind of like move in that state. But we're always like, no, I can do this for myself. I can do this for myself. But it's like that dependency now. As kids depend on their parents to kind of always be happy, we depend on God to always stay in a state of joy. So what is happiness for kids is joy for an adult.
Us,
yes. But in this case, God's the one that's like, oh, you've hurt yourself, don't worry. Oh, you've lost a loved one, I got you. Oh, this and that. Or you need just, you need like a good time. Sometimes there's somebody who send you money and be like, maybe you were thinking of even having pizza and you're like, oh God, I don't have money. So it's not always the super difficult things.
Yeah.
It's the nice things also. Like, God is a friend. So
that's true. I think that's even why, like, God tells us in the Bible, He's just like, in like that time when the children wanted to go to Jesus and people were like, oh no, like the kids, like, and then He was like, no, like, let the children come to me.
Funny story. So I told you I was raised Catholic, and Catholic you have two, like when you learn in Sunday school, you have confirmation, and the other, I don't know what it's called in English, it's called Paimara. So you have to learn you have to go to like school for it, like a Sunday school thing. Then you get the first certificate. Then you go, as you get older, you learn. Then you get the second certificate. So those are like basics. So I remember I had only kind of gone to one for the basic, the confirmation. And the head, what was he called? It was like Askofu, I think, was in Dodoma. He was in town. He was like gonna do a mass, and they're like, okay, they're also gonna like give kids a communio, right?
Yeah.
And I had done a little bit of the second school, but not officially. I just done for the first part. And I remember we were walking in the line where you go, and he like kind of like gives you your cheti. I think he puts the sign of the cross on your head, and then so they announced that they're like, the nanny is only, because he was an older man, they're like, he's only gonna do one line. He can't do all of this the community children. Then the nanny, so it's like the Paimara people just like join the line so that he doesn't do it. And I got the first one, and I left, and then my mom was like, we need the second one too. And I'm like, but Mom, I haven't got. She was like, get in line. I got in line, and when I got there, there's people called catechista, which are kind of the people who like teach us. Okay. He was like, he kind of looked at me like, aren't you already here for?
Like,
and
what is
he
going on?
stopped me. I was just about to go. He put his hand, and he was like, stop. The Askofu guy was like, don't stop, let the children come to me. And I was like,
no way.
Woo! Look what just happened. And
No
I went
way.
and I got my second. So I got communion in Paimara on one day. Crazy. Let the children
If
come
you're
to
Catholic,
me.
come back.
It was crazy. I felt so happy. I was like, win Askofu guy. Yes.
I like you.
I like it. He was like, let the children come to me. Don't stop them. I was like, you even quoted the Bible.
You know
your
what's
stuff.
up.
You know your stuff. And I got to take my Paimara. So yeah, that's crazy.
No, but so I was kind of like saying that it's just like, even with like the whole little kids being happy, it's just like, the reason why even God used them as an example, it's like we should have faith like them, is because, I mean, I think you mentioned it for a bit, is like, they depend on their parents. And they know that, hey, like you said, if I fall down, if, whatever I need, my parents got me.
Yeah.
And they have that sense of peace and security that they have my back, basically.
Yeah.
So it's even like, I mean, again, God obviously is our father. So it's basically what He wants. He wants us to depend on Him. He wants us to, like, be like, hey, don't worry so much because I got you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it makes a lot of sense of why He would use them, and even why like little kids are happy and have no care in the world. It's one of those things. It's just funny because like, even like for you, like, let's say as an adult, you know that, hey, if I fall, like if I go, like, let's say for the kids that don't know how to walk yet, or they just start walking but they can't go down the stairs, it's like, that, hey, if you go down the stairs, you're going to fall. But the little kid doesn't know that.
They don't know, and they just go. They just know they're gonna be safe. They're like, what could happen?
Even if like they fall down, they know that there's gonna be someone there to carry them and and whatnot. So it's just one of those things. It's like, hey, just have faith like theirs, basically. Are people in your country generally very happy? And just a disclaimer, if hopefully no one gets offended. But this is just how we feel. This is our opinion. So if you feel like your opinion is different, this is us.
I feel like people in my country are...
Which is Tanzania, by the way.
Yeah. I feel like Tanzanians, I feel like they're happier than they're supposed to. Like, I'll be honest with you. Disclaimer, this is not an attack on anybody, nothing, crazy. This is my personal opinion. I do think with the way some things are going, they could be more angrier or sadder, but they generally have a happy disposition. And I think this is because Tanzanians have a, type of reaction to everything. So it's like, this really bad thing has happened. They'll complain for like 3 minutes and be like, Well, some other may take it to heart, but I think because of the frequency of things that could possibly make us sad happening very often, we've adapted a kind of just like look of, this has happened. There's not really much we can do about it. Let's just proceed with life. So they're generally, I would say they're happier than they could have been. They're happier than they should be, but they're happier. And I think this helps them kind of just move through life. And I think this is one of the things that, one sign is how whenever we face tragedy, somehow memes come up online and it's like the country could be burning and people will be like, this is funny, let's make a joke.
Make a meme.
And suddenly everybody's laughing about it. So it's like we know how to take really bad situations and make light. And this might not be the best response.
It's our way of coping.
Yeah, basically. But that's how we cope. We cope with jokes, laugh about it. Because otherwise we'll be a very sad country. Because so many things are happening. So
that's true.
And I will admit faith does play a big part because we're not a religious country per se, but a lot of people are either Muslims or Christians. And sometimes when tragedy hits, people turn to their faith and be like, okay, they'll turn to God. And so in comparison to some Western countries where maybe there's so much variety in faith and people also not being of faith, when something happens, they have to make logic and they have to turn to leaders and
they're
there's
panicking
and a lot of back and forth. For us, we'll panic and then we'll be like, but God knows all. We'll make a meme, we'll make a joke, and we really don't dwell. We have that thing. So like 3 days, even the most traumatic thing, like, okay, your time is gone. We're focusing on the next thing. What's the gossip?
You gotta move on.
Yeah, there's a football match. There's this. It's like, we're like, those are things. So yeah. So I think they're happier than what another country would be.
Or if someone looked deeply in what's happening in our country. I feel like a lot of people from the outside, if they looked at what happened or what's happening here, they'd probably be like, how are you guys this happy?
How? Because it's crazy. Or if you're constantly doom scrolling and listening to other things happening in the news, if you're too aware of everything happening, you're going to be constantly in a state of anxiety and so what's going to happen now? So I think people just choose to be like, it's another day.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's another day. They just go about their work. So that really helps them to be happy.
That's true. I think one example that I literally is definitely going to stick with me till today. There was a time where we had this big hurricane, Dar specifically, that was supposed to hit. And it was Hurricane Jobo. I think the hurricane was named Jobo, whatever. And it's one of those things where other countries, other people in your right mindset, you'd be like, okay, panicking, trying to make sure that you're, safe, that you're trying to get everything that you need so that you don't go out during that time or whatever. Tell me why. Literally I think it was the minute or the day after that news came out, memes, readers. I think there was even songs about it.
songs. People's Instagram accounts change their name to the name of the hurricane. People are like, and you're like, I think another interesting, it was a hurricane and there was an earthquake that happened. And you're like, when it's announced, there's like just like very few, it's like within those hours is when there's that little panicky moment. And then people kind of like, and then the jokes start.
And the jokes come in.
The meme starts. The people laughing at each other in the streets about it. Suddenly we've turned something so dramatic into something like, and I feel like that kind of breaks down the power of the pain, and it makes it not as it's not as terrifying once people have made, you're like, okay, this is happening, these are the facts, but this is not that bad. It kind of helps break it down into something that, you know, you're like you can handle it.
That's true, especially if you're doing it, because I feel like it even made it easier. It's because you're doing it like as a community.
Yeah.
Because like if you're, let's say like there's
like
a couple
oneness, and you're like, we're all going through this.
We're all going to laugh about it.
You're all going to laugh about it. Versus when it's just like one, and you feel like there's like no other people, and
not even that. Like let's say a few people online that are panicking, and you're like, okay, not like a few, but like a majority. And you're like, okay, now you're going to panic because other people are panicking.
Yes.
So when you see that other people like are making jokes about it or like taking it as like no big deal, like okay, maybe it's not that bad. Because I'm not gonna lie, even like that, I think I was probably here for the hurricane, but even during that time, I was very panicking because I'm just like, first of all, like we're by the beach and whatever, and so I think, I'm not gonna lie, what helped was literally going on Instagram and looking at those jokes, because I'm just like,
and you're like, yeah, maybe it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Handle it. And I feel like that goes to show how far media can play a role in influencing positive or negative reaction from people about anything. Like, that's why in other countries, media is a really strong, like, it's something people fight for, because they know once they get power over what people see and hear, they can influence major decisions. So having the media, for us in times of turmoil, having the media have light things and jokes and this and that, and cartoons and all of that, kind of, calms it down a little bit. So yeah. So
that makes sense. But I think even with it's so funny, because this is the one thing that also made me even laugh, is that even with that specifically, like, let's say the news comes out, we make fun of it, and then, which by the way, that turkey didn't even hit where it was supposed to hit. It's just funny, because like it just went a completely different way. I don't think it even came to Tanzania.
It came, but it didn't. It just kind of...
It dissolved
before it hit the coast, yeah.
So it's just funny, because like, even like after that, people are like, you see?
Yeah, and they made jokes of why it didn't hit. And you're like, oh, you guys, like, everything is a joke to us. Everything can be made into a joke.
Which, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, like, I actually love it. Like, I'm just like...
Yes, it helps us cope, because it'll be crazy. It'll be crazy if
everyone is panicking and everyone's like, oh my goodness.
Because there's always something to panic about. You just need to go online. There's always something happening. So it's great when people kind of make a joke, and kind of sometimes, wanapotezea, and it's like, okay, we're not going to focus on that. They just go back to their daily routine. They go back to working. It helps them. I think that's one of the things that helped us get through COVID. By that time, although yes, we did lose a lot of people, but kind of the president allowing people to go to work and kind of move, it helped us move faster away from COVID than other countries, because we kind of had the mindset that life needs to go on regardless of the death, regardless of all other people. Kind of life stopped for them. For us, it was like, it's bad, people are dying, but we need to get to work. We have to, stuff needs to happen. So I think that helped.
It really does. It helps a lot. What role does happiness play in being successful?
I think it plays, depending on how you take it, it plays a great role. I can only speak for myself here, and maybe the experiences I've seen. At every point in your life, as you're moving towards success, whatever success means for you, but at any point in your life, rather than living in a constant looking over the fence over the horizon of when the sun's gonna like rise and shine on your life. If you're whatever stage you are, if you try and find the small happy things in that stage, first it makes time move faster.
Yeah.
Then if you're constantly peeking over the top and being like, when is that coming, when is that coming, when is that coming, you're constantly in a state of anxiety. But always finding moments of happiness where you are makes life move faster, and you're like, oh, I didn't know, like, look here now, I used to be that, but now I'm this. So it's like, what can I do to be happy now? Yeah. And not like, when I get X and Y, I'm gonna be happy. It's like, when I get, let's say, a car for something that everybody understands, I'll be happy. But in the meantime, I can still go around places, probably sometimes move around traffic faster than somebody who has a car. Yeah. And what can I do now to be happy? Or if I get maybe a larger house, what can I do in the small space I have? Maybe just if you decorate it in the way you want, maybe going back home will make you feel happy. You don't need to have the 4-bedroom house yet. Yes, it's good to have goals and have the fire in you to reach them, but I feel like always finding, and as cliche as it sounds, always finding the small things now, because we always think of life starts when I get something. Life is not, there's no life starts. There's always like, when I grow up, when I get this. That's not there. That could be a future you're not part of. That's true. So it's always like, this is the life start. You are living somebody else's when life starts. So you want to be like, you know what, if the trumpet was to go off today and Jesus was like, ayo, I'm back, you're like, yeah,
just like that.
Like, I lived, I did my share of life, I enjoyed my little moments. So you don't want to be like, oh, I could have, should have, all of that. Woulda, coulda, shouldas are not great. You just be like, live now, find little things you're happy about, do them, enjoy your time. And I think that way it moves. You move fast to whatever your next step is.
That's true. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I won't be happy until I get this. I think there's one thing I've learned is that if you have that mindset, you're never going to be happy.
Because there's always going to be something else to get. You get a car, you want a bigger car, you want a faster car. You get this house, there's the new houses just came out. You want this shoe, oh, there's a new trend. There's always something coming out.
So you won't really even find that happiness that you want if you think, hey, when I get this, I will be happy. Because when you get that, you'll be like, wait, okay, if I get this, I'll be happy. Yeah. So, and that's just how like the human mind works. Like, it's just like,
yeah, there's just a lot of training to it to be like, you know what, if I had a bigger house now, it'll be great, but this is also great. I have a roof over my head. I get to come home and just like relax and be like, oh, it also helps with being grateful, always thinking of what 100%. Could have been. Like, there's always a situation where somebody could have had it worse. And people say, oh no, it's not a competition of who has it worse. It's not, but it's situations like those that make you grateful for what you have. It
humbles you.
It humbles you because you're like, this, why is it's happening to the next person, it's not happening to you. And it's not like you have some special, you've subscribed to life's special package or anything and they've not. So it's just knowing that, oh, I have a roof over my head, I'm grateful. I do want to get a bigger house. I'm going to work hard for it.
But at least I have a roof over my head.
And I'm grateful for it. And it gets you to feel like, be happy now so you can just because constantly looking over the hedge, over the horizon, also puts your heart, it's like dragging you down, drags down your heart. You can't feel light and happy if you're like, oh no, I can't enjoy now, I can't laugh now until I have a house. But letting go,
you'll be surprised with
the things that come with
come through,
with gratefulness and just living in the now.
And it's just like the little things that I think even that's why like God wants us to have the heart of thankfulness or being grateful, because it's like, even with the small things, as like, okay, yeah, for me, I've obviously grown up my entire life with a roof over my head. So for me, it's just like, that's something normal. It's not.
Yeah, well, somebody else has never had a roof over their head. That's what I'm saying.
It's just like
the entire time.
Like thinking about, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not in a, like, let's say a house that I want to be in, or like even with now, like, let's say I'm living in a family compound, like thinking like, oh man, I wish I was like in my own space. It's like, Joanne, at least you have a roof over your head. There's the cheap people that don't.
There's always something, and it's our job to kind of see these things. Those things should make you better. They should make you better going to God. They should make you better treating other people, because that shows that people have different situations, and they should make you a better Christian, because now you know, okay, if I'm given these resources, I am able to help people who don't have
100%
the resources. If it's a roof, give to charities that give people homes. If it's food, it's anything. If you can give it, because that's why you're there. Like, that's how we blend. You can't just point fingers and be like, oh, you're in a house, you're eating, and you're like, oh, why? If God is fair, why doesn't X have a house? That's why you're there. Literally. That's why you have 20 rooms, so other people can stay in their rooms. That's why you have a surplus, so that you can be like, oh, so this surplus is for these guys. It's for these people. You don't have this surplus to just coddle and be like, oh, my precious. No, because again, we're told to store treasures above, not where the moth can eat, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel that's because you can be like, oh, this is my house and I'm all of this, and then I don't know, Radi kapiga your house and it burn all down. Boom, you're homeless in a matter of a day. So things like that should be like your abilities to have. That's where you be like, oh, other people don't. It's my job to kind of do that.
To help them out, yes. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I think it's just crazy because, like, even the older they get, the more I, like, think about these things. And it's just, like, there's people, like, I mean, like you said, there's literally the position that I'm in. There's people that are praying for that.
This is their being rich. Like, the way we be like, oh, I want to be rich like X and Y. Yours is their idea of being rich in life.
Imagine. It's just, like, even being in, like, not even, like, let's say house or money-wise, even being in, like, positions of, like, again, me being a creative and being able to have this sort of, I guess, free time or whatever to sort of do these things and do what I love.
It's a privilege to do things that you love, that you have a choice to be like, oh, I want to do a podcast. For other people, life kind of that forces them to do a certain thing because they don't have the privilege of choice. We have the privilege of choice and choosing, I'm going to do this now, I'm going to do setup. For other people, the privilege of choice is not there for them.
It's really not there.
It's just being aware, being grateful, being thankful, and using what you have to bless others.
That's true. We kind of have to even wrap this up for a bit, but one last question before I get into the Bible verses. What advice do you have for someone that's like in that, like, they are not like really happy, but they want to get to that place and they want to be happy? Like, what would you tell them?
I would say one thing, and I'm going to speak from a Christian point of view.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Take this podcast. There's not really much you can do about it. First, I want you... And I'm going to say this in both angles. There's not really much you can do about anything in life. You could walk and... Sorry for being a little bit dark, but again, lightning could strike you. You're not the person stopping lightning from striking you.
You can't stop lightning from striking you.
You're not the person stopping a random tree from falling over you.
Imagine.
So once you know, like, how life has intricately been formed around to kind of make you survive, like, you don't know how many times you almost died, but you didn't. So once you know all of these things, how everything is perfectly made to just have you move, I feel like you'd go from, when am I happy and this, to be like, I have this special little time to do things, let me do them. Or whatever situation you are. And if you don't know, pray. The guy who's playing the video game of your life, which is God, is literally like, ask. Like, we don't have a manual for life. Ask God, I don't know what to do here. What should I do? And we don't, because we think we should just, like, a voice from heaven come down. Oh, I want you to go out and start farming. Do what's in front of you. Moses was told when he was at the Red Sea, he was like, what God, the Pharaoh is coming, there's the sea, like, what do I do? God asked him, what do you have in your hand? Basically, what do you have? You're not a little, I don't know, cell floating in the air. You have something in your hand. Is it your brains? Is it your talent? Do you have any special things you can do that other people can't do? Do you have people? What are your resources? What do you have in your hand?
Yeah.
That's right. And then, again, just find the small. And one other thing I want to add, you don't have to be super happy all the time. Social media is made to no, you can sometimes just be chill.
Yeah,
it's not a bad thing to just be chill. But yes, look at what you have in your hand, move with that, and leave the rest to God.
But I normally incorporate Bible verses into this, and I have 3 which I might talk about, but can't really talk about them for that long. But yeah, so one of them is Psalm 30 verse 5, and it says, "For his anger lasts only a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." And that's helps a lot, because it's just being sad is temporary.
It's temporary. Joy is permanent.
And it's that's why I think I like that, because it even uses the whole night and day terminology that I like. It's literally weeping only lasts for the night, but once you're rested and you wake up the next day, joy comes in the morning.
Joy comes, yes.
But yeah, I think that's one of the verses. It's probably even turned into multiple songs. I feel like that's one of the verses.
I already know a song. When you were saying, I was singing the song "Joy Comes in the Morning," and I was like, oh, that's all.
Yeah. The next one is John 15:11, and it says, "I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete." And even with this one, I'm just it's a good reminder, because it's God is I'm literally telling you this, so that he, obviously, with this, you have to look at what's before, the before and after context, and the reason why he's saying this. But even as something as simple as this, it's he's the only person that you can find joy in. And even at the end where he says, "So your joy may be complete," it's one of those things. It's hey, if you want something to fulfill you, there's literally nothing else.
This world is temporary. Everything, it passes. The world is like smoke. It passes. God is constant.
Exactly, and it's you will literally be fulfilled you will have joy that you didn't even expect. See that song, "I Got the Joy in Chaos." Literally, as much as it's weird and it doesn't make sense, it's I still got joy in chaos. And that's joy is literally the joy of the Lord. There's times that I've had so much going on in my life, and I've been let's say happy, or let's say I go to church and I'm happy, people are when they come to figure out what had happened that day, they're "How are you still happy?" I'm you guys, this is literally the joy of the Lord. There's nothing.
It's crazy, because stuff will be going on in your life and you won't be depressed about it. And that's when you realize, this is how the joy of the Lord works.
That's how it works.
It's not that you don't feel the bad things, it's just they don't kick you.
God gives you
they don't
so much joy and peace in that, and it's just
pretty
crazy.
Great. I advise, if you see this podcast, taste
and see what the Lord has done.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's actually amazing. I've actually said it so many times. I'm you guys, it's amazing. It will transform you.
You have to taste it, actually. People could tell you all day,
but if you don't experience, you will not know and understand.
You guys are just saying that because of this and that.
It's crazy.
That's why the Lord said taste. He didn't say eat. He said taste, because he knows how humans, you want to be let me try. He said try me.
Taste and see what the Lord has done.
Yes.
But yeah, and then the last one is 2 Corinthians 7 verse 4, and it says, "I am greatly encouraged in all of our troubles. My joy knows no bounds." I don't think I have much to say about that, but that's pretty self-explanatory. It's I'm encouraged in my troubles that the joy, obviously, that the Lord has no bounds. But yeah, so that's it.
That.
I hope you guys learned from Victoria. I hope that if you're going through a season of sadness or trying to find happiness, that we've somehow encouraged you to get through that and know that that's just temporary, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, as cliche as that sounds, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you will get there. It just takes a lot of praying, a lot of patience, a lot of faith in God that he's got you. And even if because the devil does so much to try and attack us and make us distract us from what God has for us, so you need to make sure that you're staying firm in God and just being grounded, in a sense, in what he has for you.
Keep yourself tethered to him. Doesn't mean you're gonna be right and perfect and good. Just don't break the tether that attaches you and God. Don't break it, regardless of what's going on in your life. Regardless. And yet we haven't. The current humans, not a lot of us have been tested to the point that Job was tested, or where everything was stripped for him, but he kept himself to the Lord. So, as bad as it sounds, and as much as it could sound like, oh, you're just saying that because you're not in that situation, it is true. I may not be in a situation that is maybe as bad as you're going through, but keep yourself tethered to the Lord.
That's true. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you for being.
Inviting me. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being a part of a spirit-led vision that.
Thank you so much.
God is hopefully, well, not hopefully, He is leading me through this. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.